All right, welcome in. My name is Claire. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I'm here with Lisa Ferretti, and as part of our virtual Pride activities, Lisa has graciously agreed to talk with us today. Today we're going to be talking about healthy relationships specific to LGBTQ community. And Lisa, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi Claire, good morning. My name is Lisa Ferretti. I'm a licensed clinical social worker practicing in Cedar Rapids. I started this journey back in the early 1980s when I worked with refugees from Haiti who were seeking to move to the United States as immigrants and as refugees both. That started me on the path to social work. Took a little detour for a while and worked for the National Park Service and came back into the world of social work in the mid-2000s in one form or another. And I've been practicing as an office-based therapist since about 2013. I identify as cisgender and pansexual, and I'm currently in a relationship with a cisgender man.
All right. So tell me a little bit about when you talk with your clients and the people that you work with, what are some of the healthy relationship components that you communicate or that you share with the people that come to see you for help?
One thing I notice about nearly all the healthy relationships is that there's a pace to the relationship that seems comfortable. Nobody seems pressured into making decisions that they're not comfortable with. There's a flow that honors the power that each person possesses. There's no pressure unwanted pressure, I should say. No unwanted pressure to move in together, to meet family, to meet friends, to have children. Those sorts of qualities are present in most relationships. And there's a lack of fear about discussing if the pace seems to be getting off balance for one person or the other. And if there is any fear, there's a lack of fear about talking about the fear. And I think that's very important. And it nods a little bit to another healthy relationship component, which is all emotions are valid. All emotions in a healthy relationship can be honestly addressed without fear of repercussion. It doesn't mean that it's not an easy conversation to have about emotion, but there's an openness to allow emotions to surface.
So it has an ease to it, it has a flow, and each person in the relationship does not feel pressured to move at a pace that they're not comfortable with.
Yes, exactly.
And also, there's open communication about feelings and emotions. That it's not shamed or dismissed, but honored as that's each person's experience within the relationship.
Yeah, you got it.
Am I hearing that?
Yep,
Okay.
you got it.
Okay, that makes sense.
When there are difficult topics to talk about, emotions are allowed to surface, they're acknowledged, and they're validated, and there's a move toward empathizing with my partner's experience of emotion. I might not agree, in fact, I might disagree, but I validate. Validation and acknowledgement doesn't imply that I agree with where someone is. I'm just open to their experience of it.
All right. That makes sense. Go ahead.
Pace includes not only things that are tangible, like whether or not we're going to move in together or move, but but things that we can't necessarily hold in our hands, things that aren't tangible, like emotion. Pace is important in both of those.
Sure.
There's also trust in the healthiest relationships that I see. Trust that my partner has positive intent for me. Trust that my partner isn't going to intentionally hurt me. That's the basis of trust, positive intent. And I think often some couples go searching for something other than positive intent, and they overlook that most of the time their partners really do have their best interests in hand.
Right, right. So, say I'm starting a new relationship and I feel like, you know, those things, trust and open communication and lack of pressure, I feel like those things are going pretty well, but I'm still feeling kind of uneasy. What are some things that I could look for within my relationship, quote unquote, red flags that may indicate that, you know, maybe one of these needs some work or that one of these things are absent?
Well, there are red flag warnings of what I would call a lack of health in a relationship, and I like to separate those from red flag warnings of the potential for abuse in a relationship, because I think those are very, very discrete things. Red flag warnings that there might be a lack of health, but not the presence of abuse in a relationship, could be things like perceiving that maybe my partner isn't reliable or available to me, both behaviorally and emotionally. I'm a therapist. In my practice, I privilege emotion in relationships, so I think today you're going to hear a lot about the importance or significance of emotion in healthy relationships. An example of this would be if my partner turns away from me when I'm expressing emotion, if my partner invalidates my emotion, if my partner uses words that for me would feel pretty strong, like it's silly or you shouldn't feel worried. For me, that would signify something is turning a little bit unhealthy. Abuse in a relationship, a red flag warning of a truly abusive relationship is going to feel much stronger than those examples. Red flag warnings of abuse in a relationship, and I think, Claire, this applies to relationships in most populations. Lying would be an example. Abuse of substances of any kind could be a red flag warning.
Including alcohol.
Alcohol, any drug, abusing exercise, abusing pornography, anything that's taking away from the bond between me and my partner, abuse of essentially any substance. Noticing how my partner treats other people, abuse of animals would be a perfect example of that. Serial non-monogamy, if monogamy was an agreed upon norm in the relationship, right? And I want to be really clear about that. Some couples are monogamous and some couples are not. Wherever the boundary has been set, any abuse of that boundary should be a red flag warning. Specifically if the couple doesn't talk about that. Communication about a change in boundary in a relationship, super important. And a little bit later, I want to talk about some ways to communicate in healthy ways.
I like to look at from that perspective too, when it comes to monogamy, as far as enthusiastic consent. Because sometimes a partner will bring a certain topic to the relationship and somebody might not know a lot about it and they may agree, which we call it informed consent in our world, right? But it's important to that each partner is enthusiastically consenting to any activities or changes in the relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great way to characterize it.
As
Early,
far,
often,
oh,
and
sorry.
enthusiastically.
Yes. So just one example real quick as far as unhealthy components or red flags. One that I hear quite a bit about is phones. Partners, going through another partner's phone or something along those lines. And I was wondering if we could just touch on that real quick about when is that appropriate and when is it not appropriate? To have somebody do it to you or to do it to somebody else, because I feel like that specific issue comes up quite a bit.
I think that's a hard question to answer for a couple of reasons. One reason is I'm not sure if it's ever appropriate. If I'm feeling anxious enough to go through my partner's phone, I probably have some of my own anxiety that maybe I'm not addressing fully. And I would want to look into that individually. The other part is it starts to signal to me that there's a lack of trust and perhaps a lack of honesty. So if I were working with a couple in which I learned that one partner might be looking through another partner's phone, I'd probably address that from the position of, tell me about the trust and the honesty in your relationship, that there's something there that is at the root of the desire to look through someone's phone. And again, my own anxiety may need to be addressed individually.
Okay, thank you. I think that that's a common issue that couples face. Can I go through your phone? Should I let them go through my phone? Things of that nature.
Well, here's an example. I don't know if this might be helpful. If my partner came to me and said, Lisa, I'd like to look through your phone, my response would probably be something along the lines of first validating that my partner's feeling anxious about something. My partner's name is Matt. Matt, I can tell you're anxious about something. Can we talk about that? I'm validating that he's feeling anxious. And that's going to be my first sort of bid to connect with him. Let's talk about your anxiety. I want to validate that I hear that. I hear that you're anxious. And now let's talk more about, seems that you don't trust me. That there's something going on for you that's leading you to not feel that I'm trustworthy in this moment.
Which is opening a line of communication with your partner versus, well, why do you want to look at my phone? What are you looking at? That's a whole different approach to the conversation, the way that you kind of presented it, validating their experience and kind of moving into looking for the reasons why without coming out and saying, well, why? What's going on? What do you need to know? Because that pushes people apart rather than connecting them together.
You're right. I want to lead without defensiveness. I want to lead with validation of my partner's experience. If I'm defensive, why do you want to look through my phone? I'm probably going to look defensive. I'm probably going to back away. My face might change. Why do you want to look through my phone? Like, what's wrong with you? There's something between us that's not going well in that moment. It's not just about my partner's anxiety. It's a red flag for me that there's something unhealthy in our relationship in that moment. Defensiveness closes down communication. Openness allows communication to move forward. So this might be a good time to talk a little bit about some of the healthy communication skills. And when I thought about the many, many things, we could do session after session, Claire, on healthy communication skills. I decided to focus on one healthy communication skill. And that's the communication skill of being a listener. And this is something that takes a lot of practice. I frankly think I would have benefited more in high school from learning about being a listener than about knowing how to do geometry. No offense to any math people out there, but listening is one of those skills that transcends most everything. So
Absolutely.
there's some easy ways to focus on being a good listener, easy to talk about and take a ton of practice to implement. So I like to use the acronym SOLER, SOLER, to remind myself and to help my clients practice the how of being a good listener. So the S in SOLER stands for being square, literally squaring your body up with your partner, right? Facing your partner square on, having an appropriate distance between the two of you. And that's going to vary from partnership to partnership. S, SOLER, means square. Second is to be open. This probably isn't going to encourage a lot of listening, but this will improve the chances that my partner will view me as open and available to him or her. That's the O in SOLER. The next is lean in, L, either lean in. If there's a point my partner is making that I want to show a lot of interest in, I'm going to lean in. Or I'm going to lean out if I want to make a little more space. So we've got square, open, lean in, lean out, eye contact. Now this one can be tricky. If I stare at my partner like this and I don't ever blink, if I maintain constant eye contact, my partner is gonna, probably at some point need to break the eye. It's like too much constant eye contact.
Right.
Most of us can't maintain that. So, move your eye contact around a little bit. Probably don't do this. And absolutely don't do this. Right?
Right.
That's going to break eye contact perhaps a little too much.
Right.
And then finally, the R in SOLER is relaxed. Now, I want to qualify that one a little bit. Relaxed is an indicator of openness, but sometimes, because I want to mirror my partner when I'm an active listener, if my partner's getting a little excited or activated or intense, I probably want to change my relaxed posture just a little bit to reflect my partner's posture. So SOLER, SOLER, square, open, lean in, lean out, eye contact, and relaxed. The how of being a good listener. 50% of healthy communication is being a good listener. Now here's another way to do good listening. So most of SOLER is about my body and being a good listener. Try the acronym MOVE, M-O-V-E. And you actually did a little bit of this already, Claire, when you were listening to me. The M in MOVE is about mirroring what my partner is saying, reflect it back to my partner. So if I heard you correct, Claire, you said this. Mirror what my partner has said. The O is my favorite, and it stands for on and on. Do things that allow my partner to keep talking. Do things that promote a long enough conversation, on and on. V is validate. I've already talked about that. Claire, I can tell that was really hard for you yesterday. I've just validated something you've said to me. And the E is to empathize. Yeah, I know that was really hard when you had to go into work on call the other night. M-O-V-E, mirror, on and on, validate, and empathize. Combine MOVE with SOLER and you got the basis of really good listening skills. Does that seem helpful?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I like the combination because listening skills and communication aren't just about the words that you're using or the words that are coming and the words that are exchanged, right? It's also about the body language and the how you are using your body within that context, which can either help bring more communication, can foster communication, or it can really dampen you know, the availability of your partner to communicate. So I love both of those. I think they're fantastic. And I'm a big fan of acronyms, right? Because it gives you a kind of a solid way to look at what can I do, right? Because instead of always, you know, well, my partner, you know, the blame or putting it on your partner, what can I do? And I think if you use these skills that you know, you've shared, you can say, you know, I've done everything that I can do to try and have healthy communication with my partner.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's beautiful. Is there anything else that, you know, you would like to share with us before we wrap up in regards to healthy relationships and healthy communication?
Yeah, I want to say one more thing again, because I'm a therapist that privileges emotion. I want to talk just very briefly about what I see as the difference between being in a healthy interdependent relationship and a relationship that might be leaning toward codependence. In a healthy interpersonal relationship where there's interdependence, people can still function autonomously. I don't necessarily depend on my partner for how I feel, what I think, and what I do. I'm connected to my partner for sure, because my partner is validating and open and honest with me and has positive intent for me. But I can function autonomously. That is if it's not number one, it's number two sign of a healthy relationship. Codependence, Claire, in your neck of the social work woods, you know a little bit about this as well. Codependence indicates that the only way I can be happy is if my partner provides for my happiness. And I want people to watch for that as a red flag. I'm happy because I'm happy. I'm sad because something happens that's sad. I'm not happy or sad or worried or fill in the blank about how you might be feeling because of somebody else. I am those things intrinsically. And that's important to watch for. It doesn't mean I don't need my partner, because I do. I'm in this life with a partner because I choose to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't need them to make those things possible for me.
Right.
So watch for that difference as well.
Autonomy is kind of a big word. Can you give a little bit of an example of what that might look like?
Yeah, sure. I personally don't know how to change a tire very effectively, right? I rely on my partner for that. It doesn't mean that I can't learn how to change a tire. I could. I am autonomous when I know I either possess the skill or I know where to go find it. But that I don't have to rely on my partner 100% of the time for 100% of my well-being. That's a lack of autonomy. Autonomy means I know how to take care of my own needs, and I'm willing to go do that.
Very good. All right. Wonderful. Well, Lisa, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. And I want to, on behalf of CR Pride Fest Board, I want to thank you for your time today. And I hope we get to do this again in the future.
Thanks, Claire.
So thank you very much. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day.
Happy Pride. See you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.